And so that was a very powerful experience for me because it was the first time in my adulthood that I was witnessing somebody on their transition journey. And so when she passed, I started to question. I asked a lot of questions to the universe, and I was asking, I was like, I just saw her a couple hours ago and now she's gone. Where is she? I want to know where did she go? And so I started to get interested to find the answers.
Welcome to the Spiritual Sensitivity Unleashed podcast, the empowering sanctuary for empaths and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Emily Kady. My mission is to support and uplift those feeling overwhelmed by the weight of others' expectations. Each episode, we explore the mystical realms, connecting with the universe, spirit guides, and angels to uncover your authentic truth and purpose. Join me for heartfelt conversations, expert insights, and practical tools to help you thrive as an empath. Priscilla, I am just so grateful that you are here joining me today. You have such a fascinating story, and I would love for you to share about it and the lessons you've learned along the way, especially the lessons of being here in the earthly realm, the 3D, and how you have been able to access the 4D and 5D in your spiritual growth and still navigate the 3D. So can you share a little bit about what brought you to the United States from Singapore in the first place?
Okay, hi Emily. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really happy to be here with you. And so you asked about my journey. So I would have to start from the beginning. So I was born and raised in Singapore. I am the only child to my parents. And unfortunately, my parents still have a dysfunctional marriage. And so while growing up, I saw a lot of, anger, abuse, pain. And so um, when I was 21, I guess I just wanted to get out of the house. I met a guy at 16, and then at 21, we decided to get married. And so I got married at 21, and the marriage was fine for the first 2 years. And then red flags started to show up. There was a lot of verbal abuse, emotional abuse. And I guess I took it. I took it because I was young, I was naive, I was timid, and I certainly did not want to go back to my parents' home. So I took it for 9 years. And after 9 years, I guess I got really tired of, being put down and not being able to step into my authentic self. And so I filed for divorce. And divorce took about a year to process. So at that time, I was really broken, depressed. My life was in shambles. And so I started going to church because I was baptized after birth as a Catholic. So I started to turn to my faith to try to find my way back. And so I started going to church a lot, like maybe 3, 4 times a week, really asking for guidance and assistance. And the fact that because I was going to church so often, I I guess it was a paradox. It started to not resonate with me anymore because I kind of got tired about being less than. I got tired about I need to do this and this and this in order for, to be in God's good books, so to speak. So I really got tired and I just felt like, I don't want a God that judges me, right? So I left the church. And at that point, I did not turn to spirituality. I did not turn to any other religion. And I just told myself that I wanted to be a free thinker and just live my life the way that makes me happy. So that's what I did for a while. And so, like I said, after the divorce, my life was in shambles. So I got myself a job. I moved back in with my parents, unfortunately.
It was
But yeah,
temporary. Sometimes it's nice to,
yeah,
if it's a toxic place, it's a temporary place for you to get yourself back together.
yeah, just to regroup.
Yes.
So yeah, like I said, I got myself a job and my boss was an American man, very nice man. And so, I was just trying to get my life back together. And about 6 months into the job, my boss's friend, who is also an American man, he lives in Florida. He comes to Singapore for a visit and he comes to the office where my boss is at. And that's when we met, right, for the first time. And I'll just say this person's name is Richard. So Richard sees me in the office and, he says hello and I say hello and, we start talking and stuff. So he was there for about a week and I saw him almost every day. And so when Richard goes back to Florida after his vacation, ends, he starts emailing me because we took some pictures in the office, and so he started emailing me the pictures and kind of checking in, like, how are you, how are things with you. So that started this communication back and forth. And so uh, we got along really well. And so my birthday was in May. So Richard returned to Florida after the vacation in February. So in May, he told me, okay, you know what? Your birthday is in May. I would like to see you again. So I will come back to Singapore and visit you. So anyway, long story short, he comes back to Singapore. We get along so well. And, we decided to be together as a couple. And so he goes back to Florida after a couple of weeks of vacation. And at the end of June, I put my whole life in a suitcase and I told my parents, I'm out of here. I'm going, I'm leaving for Florida, right? And so
Wow.
my parents were like, what on earth are you doing? But I said, I just gotta go. I'm really happy and I want to start afresh. And honestly, if I had an ounce of fear, I wouldn't have done it, but in my heart, it felt right. And I just knew that, it just felt right. And I knew I just needed to do this. And so I go to Florida and, life is good. We get married, been traveling the world. And one day, 4 years into the marriage, I wake up in the morning and I think to myself, like, wow, 4 years have passed. And what have I really accomplished for myself? Pretty much nothing. I mean, I was traveling the world, I was having a great time, but did I get an education? Did I go get a job? No. And so I guess I got restless with myself. And so I felt like I needed
You're
to do
living the
something.
dream life that a lot of people would love to have. You're traveling the world, you're being taken care of, and
Yeah,
you're realizing, wow, there's more to life than this.
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
And so I told my husband and I said, I don't want to go back to school or I want to get a job. So anyway, a family member advised me. He said, why don't you join the military? Because, you get free education, you travel the world for free, you do a lot of cool stuff. And at that point in time, that appealed to me. And so I go down to the recruiters and I signed up for the army. So on active duty. So in
That takes serious gumption. I would never do that. How old are you at this point?
oh gosh, I was like, I want to say 32, maybe 33.
Wow. And what is the cutoff? Like, is it 35 or something
No,
that
I think it's 42.
oh, it's 42. Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, that's amazing that you did this.
So so remember that I said that I lived in Florida, right? So
Yeah.
in January, in wintertime, I ship off to Oklahoma for basic training. And when I get there, there's like snow on the ground there. Yeah, it was freezing cold. And we get off from the bus and we're immediately yelled at and get down and do push-ups and don't get up till we tell you to. And I had a moment with myself and I thought, oh my God, Priscilla, what did you get yourself into?
Right. Yes. Did
Right?
you have any clue that it would be like this at all?
No, no, not at all.
You were kind of sold on the fact that you travel the world and get a free education,
Exactly.
not knowing
So,
what it really is. Oh,
yep. But I mean, from the Army's point of view, they needed to break us down to build us up as soldiers. So I get that, right? And so the way I survived basic training was I kept my mouth shut. I kind of faded into the background. If I got yelled at, all I say is yes, 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 and I don't put up any attitude. And so that's how I survived by not, by diminishing myself. So I was not picked on.
Mhm.
So anyway, basic training is over, and that's when I started traveling the world for the army. And then in 2016, 2017, I found myself in Afghanistan. And needless to say, that was a very demanding, emotionally demanding and rough experience. And I was there for 9 months. And so when I got back from Afghanistan, I kind of knew that it was time for me to move on
What I'm
because
curious though, because so you're there during a war,
mhm.
and what was your job?
Oh, my job, I was not in the front lines. I was
Thank
not on the
God.
front lines.
Yeah.
I was more the back end support, like doing
Hmm.
security of the base in Afghanistan. And so it was long hours. We were working like, I want to say 13, 14 hours every day, 7 days a week for 9 months.
Wow.
So when I got back, I
So I am
was,
super curious because that is just amazing to me that you served and you spent 9 months in Afghanistan. Can you share any sort of takeaway or life lesson that you learned from that experience?
I want to say the biggest life lesson I learned was to be grateful and have so much gratitude for my life in the United States.
Ah, that's so
We have
beautiful.
so much. We have so much blessings and gifts here.
Yes.
And to see other people in other countries not having a house, not having, proper clothes, or not even having the freedom to talk or leave the house, like women, right? They when they leave the house, they need a man to go with them. They can't like just get in the car and drive to wherever they want. And they're covered from head to toe. They can't really wear normal clothes like how we do.
And it's hot and
And
they're
it's
covered.
hot. Yes,
Yeah.
it's like 120, 130 degrees.
And they're
And
covered.
yeah. And
Wow.
so it was a very stark contrast, but I think I needed to see that in order to really understand and, you know, be grateful for what I have,
Mm. Hmm.
right? Because we all learn through contrast.
Yes, we do. Hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah. Also, like I said, I got back and I was so burnt out, and I decided to separate from the military in 2019. I served my 8 years contract and for active duty, and I decided to leave in 2019. And so when I left in January of 2019, I want to say like a couple months after I left, my mother-in-law, she had cancer and she was transferred to hospice. And so obviously we were there with her to take care of her. And so that was a very powerful experience for me because it was the first time in my adulthood that I was witnessing somebody on their transition journey.
Hmm.
And so when she passed, I started to question. I asked a lot of questions to the universe, and I was asking, I was like, I just saw her a couple hours ago and now she's gone. Where is she? I want to know where did she go? And so I started to get interested to find the answers. And so I want to say I was guided to many books. I was guided to Gaia TV.
Love
Are you
Gaia
familiar?
TV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's the best.
Right. And so, you know, I was so intrigued with Gaia TV, and I was immediately drawn to this program. It's called Interview with the Extra Dimensionals
Mm-hmm.
by Ruben Langdon.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched all episodes in that show. And so I was immediately drawn to three specific channelers. The first one being Paul Selig. He's a phenomenal channel. He channels the Melchizedek Collective. And then the second person was Jamie Price, who is the queen of light language in the States. And the third was Lisa Royal Holt, who who is a phenomenal channeler as well, and she's been channeling galactic energies since the 1980s. So she channels a lot of ET energy, ET consciousness. So I saw Paul Selleck in person. I went to his workshop in Maryland. And yeah, like I say, when he channels, it's like phenomenal because you can feel the energy coming
Oh,
through.
that is the best.
I took light language with Jamie Price and Lisa Royal Holt. I realized that she has a lot of contact meditations on her website. And so I was very intrigued with her work. And so I started to, go down the rabbit hole with her work. So I decided to purchase her contact meditations. And I thought, you know what, I'll just give this a try and see what happens. And so I started to listen to the meditations every night before going to bed. And so I want to say, like, the first couple times, nothing really happened. But I want to say, like, the third, fourth time when I started listening, I always fell asleep before the
Mhm.
meditation completed.
Mhm.
So, but this specific night, I fell asleep, and I want to say like 2 o'clock in the morning, my third eye was activated, and then boom, this big cinema screen shows up while I was sleeping. So now I just want to let you know that yes, I was asleep, but I was conscious. It was not a dream state kind of situation. I was sleeping, but I was conscious. So I
So it
knew
wasn't like lucid dreaming, or was it lucid dreaming? Are you familiar
it
with?
was not even dreaming, I would say. It was like I was awake, but
Okay.
both my physical eyes were closed, but my
Right.
third eye was activated.
Right.
So then I started seeing the words. It was huge, like love, peace, joy. And then it was like quantum, very quantum, energetic kind of words. And then it shifted into the zodiac signs, like the star system. So it was kind of like moving like that. And I was just witnessing all this for a few seconds. I want to say like 4 or 5 seconds, and then it dissipated. And so in the morning when I got up and I was like, what the heck just happened right last night?
Right. Did it scare
And
you at all?
no, I was fascinated. I was extremely fascinated. And I knew that it had to do with Lisa's contact meditation
Right.
because that was what I was doing every night.
Hmm.
And so I started to listen more. I was more intrigued. And I was like, I want to get that vision back again
Right.
because it was so beautiful.
Hmm.
And so I started listening to her meditations like even more. And it wasn't long before I want to say I started seeing ET beings that were visiting me. And I want to say, I think I first saw the Pleiadians,
Hmm.
and then the Syrians have come. And I've seen light beings. I've seen non non-human beings. I mean, at this point, I've seen so many, so many different kinds of beings. And I just want to say though, I think I'm really just connecting with fractals of myself, fractals of my consciousness.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I don't have any fear when I see them. I actually have a lot of love for them, and I do feel their love for me. And yeah, so I
I
don't know.
would
Do you
love
have
for
any
you to
questions?
explain, yeah, just for the listeners, what do you mean when you say fractals of your being, of yourself, when you see these beings?
Okay, so I just want to point out that we as humans, right, in this reality, in this incarnation, it's just like a pinprick, right? Because our soul consciousness is massive, is
Mhm.
massive. So my soul consciousness will have many incarnations in different star systems, in different planets. So what I'm saying by fractals of my consciousness is exactly that. My soul consciousness is massive, and I, as a human, is one fractal of that consciousness.
Right. So, in my teachings that I do, and what I've been given as downloads from the spiritual realm, is we have our spirit, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have our spirit creates many, many souls. And
Right.
those
Projections
souls,
of
yes,
consciousness.
yes, and
Yep.
those are the fractals that you're referring to, or your spirit. So it is a you is the
Mm-hmm.
spirit, but you are one soul out of hundreds, if not more, that are
Yeah. A
actually active.
bazillion.
Yeah, exactly. That are yeah, active in this moment, but there is no such thing as time. So, but yes, I love that. I love that you are connecting with different aspects of you, different souls that were generated from your soul, your spirit. Excuse me, not your soul.
Yep. So I like to think of it as bubbles, right? You have like one big giant
That's
bubble,
what
and
I
then you
see. That's so
have
funny. I
mini
totally
mini
see bubbles.
bubbles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, at this point I've like I said, I've seen so many beings, and I think my this is one of my soul purpose, I would say, for incarnating into this lifetime and why I'm being allowed to see these beings. I think it's an agreement that I made prior to an incarnation for them to, interact with me and for me to see them so that I can do my part, like what I'm doing now, talking to you about this, so that this is my way of kind of helping to expand human consciousness, I believe, by talking about it.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I think that's beautiful. Do you, when you connect with these beings, do they ever have messages for you or any guidance, anything that they give to you? Or is it just more like a physical connection that you see each other and you're connected that way?
I don't get specific messages per se, but this is just the human me that's talking. I'm not sure whether my higher self
Right.
is
Yes.
getting, I would think that my higher self is getting the messages, but the human self, it probably will trickle down at some point,
Right.
through downloads or, inspirations. But yeah, when I do see them, I do say hello telepathically. And I don't get a response, although sometimes I do see beings kind of like moving their mouth and talking to me, but the human self, I don't get what's being said, but I think I do. My higher self is probably getting the message.
Right. And I know, like, a lot of times when you have an encounter with an extraterrestrial, they tend to, our human self, the vibration is so high that our human self cannot handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Right.
it's too, like, in this 3D plane, we cannot physically handle that sort of vibration. So a lot of times our people are actually, I don't like to use the word abducted, but they do actually go up in the ships and connect with their soul family or other extraterrestrial beings, and there's no memory of it
Right. Yeah.
because of that. So
Right.
that's maybe why you can't hear what they're saying, but your higher self knows exactly what's being said, and it will acclimate and play out in time being that it's supposed to in this lifetime.
Yes. And I also want to point out recently I started astral traveling. And I have witnessed myself, my consciousness. I don't have a body, obviously. So I'm in bed, my third eye is activated, and I see myself traveling in deep space, going at the speed of light, and I'm whizzing past star systems and planets and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, I just kind of like zoom in into a different dimension. And then I am kind of like hovering in this dimension in midair, and I'm kind of just observing about I know what's going on around me.
Do you
So
see anything at all? What are you seeing? Or can you
okay.
not remember?
Oh yeah, all of this is imprinted in my brain. I can't
Okay.
forget. If you tell me to, bring up a specific memory, I still can. And so I have two specific memories that stand out. One, I saw a guy. He looked human. He was like he was like driving in a vehicle, and my consciousness was just like behind his ear. So I was kind of like observing what he was doing, but
Uh-huh.
my position was like right here.
Right.
And then another memory
You're
was
like at what did they call those go cameras? That's like
Yeah,
right
I
here
think,
that you
yeah.
can see the perspective of what that person is going through.
Right.
I
But I
love
found it so intriguing that I was kind of like hovering just behind his head, that kind of perspective of what I was seeing.
it. Right.
And so the next memory, I traveled to a dimension where, do you know Star Wars? Do you watch Star Wars?
Oh, when I was a kid, it was a long time ago though.
Okay. I went into this dimension where they had like little people, like the Ewoks.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So they were like non-human, but they were very little and they had kind of like fur. And I witnessed this Ewok. He was like in the woods and there was like animals, running around. I think he was like outside of his home and his home was kind of like in the woody area and he was chopping wood and I could see like goats and like chickens running around, but he was not human. He was a little people, like I said, the Ewok. And yeah, these two really stand out to me. But I've had so many, just like we can spend
What
hours talking about
yeah,
that.
I'm curious, like out of those two, like can you, because they stand out to, they're imprinted in you, can you kind of like put any sort of, oh, what's I'm trying to say is like finger on the messaging or the purpose for your soul to go and connect with these
I
beings?
don't really know why I am going into these specific realities. I can't say, but I think the bigger picture is that my soul or my spirit or my oversoul is trying to tell me, like, look, you are not this human body,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to sleep, you do travel
Right.
and you are so much more than this human body. And that's the message that I take away for myself. And that has changed my whole perspective on life because I know now for a fact that I am not just this human body. And I used to be afraid to transition, like to die.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm not because I know I live on because
You
I
don't die.
witnessed
Yeah.
exactly. I witnessed myself without a body
Right.
and I still carried on and I was having a jolly time in space. So, so yeah, it has eliminated fear a lot. I want to say like 99% of fear from my life. I'm not going to say I'm perfect and not have fear. Sometimes my
Well, yeah.
ego still
Well, yeah,
plays up,
we have egos, and the other thing too is our soul chose to come here to have the human experience. And in
right?
this 3D, dimension, it's there's a lot of toxic energy and fear comes up.
Yeah.
And if you don't have fear and you're here, then I mean, one, you're a superhero, human, not hero. But to me, I think it's like you've accomplished what you're meant to accomplish. Now it's like you're ready to transition to become an ascended master or something if you've been able to navigate life without fear.
Yeah. But you know what? Nothing in the universe is ever compelled upon us. Source doesn't compel upon us like, oh, you got to learn, this way, XYZ, follow this way, right? Source is just saying, just incarnate and just do your thing. And so we have the choice whether we want to learn through fear or through love or through gratitude, it's all up to us what we want to choose and how we want to learn. So for me, I have learned through, but as having said that, you got to have the contrast. It goes back to the contrast. So like when I started my life, my incarnation in this life, I had a dysfunctional family, a dysfunctional marriage, and I kind of moved through that process to where I am today. And I needed that. I needed all those dysfunctionalities in my life in order to appreciate what I have today.
Yeah, it shaped your journey.
Right.
I
And
mean,
so
yeah,
if
if
you,
You didn't
Go
end
ahead.
up, so you were programmed as a young child, because our brains are programmed from age 0 to about 8 to 12 years old, as like it's finally your brain is set. But uh, you're you're programmed by seeing your parents having a toxic relationship, a dysfunctional relationship, and that's what you knew. So that you immediately go into that,
Exactly.
not realizing you're going into it. You don't
Right.
realize you unconsciously are creating these realities, but and then you're like, enough, I don't want this. You divorce this man, so now you meet this other man through work who brings you to the States,
Right.
and that wasn't a toxic relationship. It didn't sound
No,
like.
not at all.
So he
No.
was a good person. You broke that cycle, but yet, and you had, it seems like you had time to uh, nurture yourself while you were with him.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
and in that time, it's like you were able to see that you wanted more. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, 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 go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just seeing like, okay, there's more here to life. This feels good. I feel like I've been taken care of. All of my wounds have been healed. Now let's go on and take on some more wounds to learn some more lessons. Let's go
Yeah.
into active duty.
Yeah, right. I gotta say, my soul really chose a very interesting journey.
Right. I think so too.
You know, what I learned from my spiritual studies is that it's a holographic universe. So when we come down into density, like on the earth plane, we carry the whole of the universal wisdom within us. It's all in our energy field, right? It's
Right.
just that we incarnate on the earth plane and we have amnesia.
Mhm.
We think we're small, but in actuality, we're infinite. And so
I have my own theories on why we come in and we forget all of our past lives. Do you have a theory? Do you want to share what yours is?
my theory is that that's the structure of the earth plane, that
Uh-huh.
we have amnesia because it's 3D, right? It's a very dense frequency. And so we knew what we were getting ourselves into when we
Mhm.
decided, when we chose. I would say the key word here is we chose to be here.
Mhm.
And so we knew that we will forget, who we are, our true self. But you know what? I think that's the magical journey to the soul, right? It's like, I know who I am in reality, but let me pretend for a little while that I don't know who I am and let's see what I can get up to. I think to the soul, this is like an adventure, I guess,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So my theory is it's similar to yours. It's our soul came here to learn. We want to learn so we can continue to ascend as souls. As we ascend, our spirit ascends, but we come down and we forget everything, because if we remember everything, then we're not going to learn. So
Exactly.
your life is showing exactly how you've learned over all of these different trials that you've gone through. And that was what your soul needed to learn some hard lessons. If you had the memory of all your past lives, you would not have done certain things. But your
Right.
soul specifically chose your parents. Your soul
Exactly.
needed to have that
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I chose the dysfunction. And that's such an empowering perspective to think that I chose my parents. I chose the dysfunction because it's going to serve me
Right, they're my
in a
teachers.
higher
They
way.
are my
Yeah.
teachers. Whatever it is in your life that triggers you or makes you feel like you're frustrated with, they're your teacher, and we should be grateful for them.
Right. And the external world is just a mirror of what's happening inside,
Yes.
right? So if I have anger in my life, in my in my beingness, and I'm emitting this frequency of anger and rage and all that stuff, then the reflection that comes back is going to be anger and rage, because this is what you're telling the universe you want. You're emitting that from your beingness.
Yes. It's true.
So that's really the unconditional love of the universe, because the universe doesn't play favoritism, right? If this is what you want, like you're telling the universe, I'm angry, and the universe will say, okay, you're telling me you're angry, so this is the reflection. I'm going to give you anger because this is what you're telling me that you want.
Exactly. And so the key, at least when I work with my clients, you know, they've been stuck in these cycles of anger or grief or, whatever it is, unworthiness. And there's these cycles that they weren't able to break. And they're unconsciously navigating life through those cycles. So in your situation of anger, like if you chose to be angry about your parents, um, that is a cycle that if you kept it, one, you would not be in the spiritual realm at all, astral traveling
Right.
and working with the extraterrestrials. You would, because your vibration would be stuck really low.
Exactly.
And so, but those moments, like something happened for you to break that cycle with your first husband.
Yeah, I think when I said, I don't want this anymore, I've had enough, I think that was the moment that's, the turning point for me. When I
Hmm.
said, I don't need this, I don't want it anymore. And so when you stand up for yourself, the universe takes notice, right?
Yes.
Your oversoul takes notice and like, okay, so this is the turning point for you. We're gonna,
So now we're
you
gonna
know,
you're now making decisions that are better for you, and we're gonna start to serve up things that will help guide you in that direction.
right. Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
I love it. Yes, I love it. I love that you were able to figure that out and pivot, and you went extreme, which is great. You didn't limit yourself. You left your home country.
Oh, I know that's kind of crazy. But you know what? I tell you, I've traveled to many places in the world with the army and, with for vacations and stuff. I think I gotta say, there's really no place like the United States of America.
Yeah, we are
It,
very
it is a
blessed here.
very special place.
It is. Yes, it is very special. I do agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am so thankful to be here. And I just gotta say, I am thankful for seeing Afghanistan because, not many regular people go to Afghanistan for vacation. Do you know what I mean? So had the opportunity to see a country that was a war-torn country, and it provided the contrast that I needed to express gratitude in my life and to really, understand and embrace what I have. So,
Gratitude. I mean, that is probably one of the most powerful things to shift our life.
yes.
When I was a kid, my parents, I was very, very lucky. My parents took my sisters and I to Europe. And this is back in like the mid 80s. I was 12 years old at the time. And I that shifted me greatly. Like I went from being just like a little spoiled brat thinking not having any perspective of what's on the outside of my little tiny reality. And then going to Europe, and we spent 5 weeks and we traveled all over. And back then there was no internet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there weren't like so there weren't even like hotels that we have here in the United States. There weren't like Hiltons or it was like just old buildings with little single beds that half of them like were indented
Yeah.
because they were old. Um, and shared bathrooms down the hall and just the whole experience shifted my reality and gave me so much gratitude for what I had, and I didn't even realize how much I had had until I went there. But it also gave me so much gratitude for culture because we don't have the culture here in the States.
Oh,
And they're pockets of culture,
right,
not like what I had experienced in Europe at the
right.
time. So I understand what you're talking about, the gratitude. Now, I didn't experience on the same level as you of going to Afghanistan and having to serve, but as a young mind being totally rewired from having that perspective of the comforts of the US to just how other people, and that still was first world,
Right,
countries
right.
that I went to. So, but gratitude, increases your vibration and it changes everything.
Yeah, if you think about it, all life experiences are neutral, right? Because we have souls, we chose to experience XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, I believe that before we incarnate, we have our spirit team, we have our councils, and we get counsel like, okay, I want to learn XYZ on the earth plane. So you kind of build a plan and you get into soul agreements with other souls, right? Who's going to push your buttons so that you can
Yeah, yeah.
learn,
Your
right?
parents,
Exactly. So, on the other side, I think it was all done with a lot of love. Like, okay, you want to learn XYZ, I will be so-called perpetrator to push your button so that you can learn about yourself. So I think it was all done in love on the other side. But then when we come here, we forget about everything, all the agreements that we've made. And so when people start pushing our buttons, we see them as negative or perpetrators or, triggers. But if we can just take this perspective, take a deep breath and step back and take the perspective like I chose this on some level, I chose this on a higher level. So what is this experience that I'm experiencing right now, which I perceive as negative? What is it really here to teach me? Right?
yes,
Because, like I said, the universe does not compel any experiences upon us.
yeah,
Whatever is in our life, it's there for a reason, a higher purpose. It's either we chose it or it's there to teach us a lesson. So, you
yeah.
know,
And so, Priscilla, I agree 100% with you. However, when somebody has something just so traumatic happen to them, it's a very hard thing to accept
yes,
that. And it's like having something that it's a matter of I don't know if you have any thoughts on that of because to me it's like you can't really tell somebody that I don't think if they're in the middle of the trauma. But if time goes on and they can see, like I know for me over my lifetime I've had some traumatic situations in my life and afterwards I look back and go that was awful, but I learned X, Y, and Z and I'm glad it
exactly.
happened. But I'm thinking of like a parent losing a child to some, traumatic situation. That I think has to be the ultimate worst experience. Just awful, awful, awful. And how I don't know. I don't. I'm kind of at a loss of words, but how can they learn from that?
I think it's important for people to go through their own process, right? If
Yeah.
you're in a grieving process, it's okay. Take your time to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, it's not healthy to remain in grief like for the whole of your existence here on the earth plane. I'm saying take your time to grieve, go through your process, feel your emotions, because emotions are there to be felt, not to be stuffed down. So feel your emotions. That's one of the ways that you can get through grief. For example, if you're, going through grief and sadness, experience that and honor that.
Yes.
It's honoring that, okay, I am in this space and that's okay. I'm going to be in this space for however long I need to be. But then I know I'm going to cross over to the other side where I will be healed because it's like I don't know how to say, it's like a journey, right? You go through a traumatic event and then you kind of go through your journey, your grief. But then on the other side, when you're done with your grieving, on the other side is freedom.
Yeah. It is freedom. Well,
So
and as you're talking, I'm thinking of like parents, like, MAD that started women or moms against drunk drivers. All of these different grassroots support groups have started because of parents that have lost their children in tragic situations. And it doesn't just have to be that example, but it fuels something within that person. And that's a perfect example of a soul agreement.
exactly.
I'm gonna I'm gonna be the mom and I'm gonna start this grassroots program to help other people to save other lives. And you're gonna be my child. You're gonna come in and we are going to go through this together. And I'm gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to face this grief, but it's for a bigger picture than just what you and I have here.
Right. And if you think about it, we all come from one source, right? The same source, the one and the all that is. And so if you think about it, what we experience here on the earth plane, and I'm talking about like all beings in the universe, it's all about perspective, right? Because
Right.
source is actually learning through us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we go through grief, it's all being transmitted back to the highest levels. Like, what is your perspective in this situation? So it's like, what we are going through, for example, the grief, going through grief, it's all being transmitted back to the highest levels, and the highest levels are learning and expanding through us,
Yes.
right? Through what we're going
Yes.
through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
And so I am a medium, as you know, I'm a medium, and I know this too about grief, which is really fascinating. You had said, how did you say it? We're supposed to grieve. We're supposed to honor their grief. People get addicted to being in grief. I was somebody that got addicted to grieving. At a very young age, I felt everyone's pain, and so I got addicted to it, and I had to become aware that I was addicted to it. And what in my process of learning that addiction was because I just never really wanted to let go. So holding on to the grief was a way for me to hold on to the people that I had lost.
mm-hmm. You
Um,
still want the connection to them,
yes, and the grief is that connection.
right?
So, but when we honor our grief, we are actually allowing the beings on the other side to heal as well. They don't have feelings. There's no feelings in the spiritual realm. That was my experience in my NDE. So, but there still is process for them to, their soul has to go through. They're still healing. And so when we heal, it allows them to heal.
Right,
If we hold on to our grief, guess what? They can't heal.
right. I
And so
agree.
it is truly in our best interest to honor our grief. I always say, grieve unapologetically.
I like that. Yes.
Don't hold back. Those emotions are surfacing in the most awful times when you're at a restaurant or whatever. Don't hold back. They're coming up for a reason. And if we
Yep.
keep stuffing them, guess what? It just gets harder and harder and harder for us to process it.
Yeah, it's our body telling us that because our body is storing all this energetic footprint, right? Of this
Yeah.
grief, sadness, anger, rage. So when it comes up, your body is really telling you, like, I can't handle this. You just need to let this go, like, release it somehow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, release it. Don't stuff it down.
Yeah.
Releasing is the first way to heal, the first path towards healing, I believe.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. It is.
Yeah.
And the
It,
transformation is phenomenal.
I know. I would encourage people to feel their emotions because I know a lot of people are afraid to feel pain or fear or sadness. It hurts. I know it does, but yeah, I mean, try to take the higher perspective and to see that it's there to serve you. Your emotions are there to serve you, and like I said, I reinforce the point that feeling it is the only way to get through it. The
Yeah,
first and only way. Yeah.
absolutely. Otherwise, it stays in there. Um, Priscilla and I are not therapists, so if you are in the middle of grief and it's really starting to take a stronghold on your life, I will put a hotline number below for somebody for you to reach out and get some support because it is important to talk. The
Yes.
most recent time I had to grieve was my dog passing about 8 months ago. And I remember just having people, the few people that actually reached out and said, "How are you doing?" That was like amazing for me.
Yes.
It was an
Yes.
opportunity for me to talk.
Right. To get it out of your system.
Yeah, instead of I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking of you, or I'm sending you good, which I appreciate all of that, but it's those people that genuinely wanted to know how I was doing. That was the opening for me to get it out of my system.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I totally agree with what you're saying, getting it out of your system.
Yeah,
And you talked about your dog passing. My dog passed too, so
I know you're
I understand where you're coming from. It's like furry baby, like children.
well, and yeah, both of us are childless, and so our dogs are our kids. And the thing that's different about an animal is a constant companion.
And they don't talk back.
They don't talk back. Yes, well, sometimes they can, but we don't understand necessarily what they're saying. But yeah, they're with us all the time, and whereas kids, they go and they come and go,
Hmm.
and they grow up. Dogs are with you, and yeah, when you lose them, and like I had been with dogs for 18 years, and it was like when I lost my last one, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was
Yeah.
like seriously lonely because I'm like, I've always had a companion with me.
All right.
So it took me a minute to connect.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. You were gonna say
no,
something?
I was gonna say this has been a really fun podcast, and just the twists and turns that we've taken. It's not, I love it, but I do want to come back to your story. I want to touch on one thing here before we wrap up. Is your spiritual awakening happened when your mother-in-law passed?
Hmm.
Do you feel like your question was answered?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think that was just the most beautiful gift that she gave to me
Oh,
because her passing was really the catalyst to really like, you know, get me on my spiritual journey because I started to ask questions. And I am so grateful for witnessing the sacredness of this transition journey, of her transition journey. It was so sacred. And I don't know, it was just a very powerful experience. And like I said, I thank her for giving this gift to me. And I think maybe it was even a soul agreement that I had with her prior to incarnation.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What a
yeah.
beautiful gift. I love, love, love that. And the lessons that you have learned along the way, they're just so inspiring. And I'm so grateful for you sharing them with us, and helping all of us waking up to our own spiritual journey, and get a different perspective, and hearing about the different dimensions that you get to go visit and connect it with during the night while you sleep. I absolutely love that. I do really quickly before we wrap up, I just said for educational purposes, is if you wouldn't mind explaining to the audience about astral travel and what is actually happening, because your physical body is still here, but your soul is moving.
Right. I mean, everybody has an astral body. We all have an astral body. And so when we go to sleep, it's like our physical body goes to sleep, but then the energetics gets really active. And so now I want to say I'm not special. Everybody astral travels at night while they sleep. But I think the only difference with me is that I'm being allowed to remember my
Yeah, a lot of
travels.
people don't remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I said, I think I'm being allowed to remember so that I can talk about it on the earth plane to assist in the expansion of human consciousness. But like I said, your astral traveling is really your energetics, your astral body, your consciousness just traveling and meeting your soul family, meeting your ET family, meeting non-physical collectives, going for classes, giving classes. We are very busy beings on the other side. When we go to sleep, there's a lot of work that we're doing on a energetic level. So astral traveling is something that I think it's a normal thing that we all do. Because if you think about it, our natural state is being in spirit, right? We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So when we go to sleep, we're kind of like activating our natural state.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't astral travel all the time. I had to learn how to. And one thing I had to do is I had to give up alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Because my it would lower my vibration. So if your vibration is really low, I think it's really hard for you to astral travel because you're just not able to go into those higher realms.
Right.
But you have
And
the capability. You just have to make, some adjustments to bring your vibration up.
right. So after I left the military, I really made a lot of changes in my life. I quit eating meat. I stopped alcohol. Um, Recently I stopped sugar. I
I did
had
too. It feels
oh
good,
nice.
doesn't it?
Yeah. So I don't really I used to have like sweet tooth. I used to like love cakes and cookies and all that stuff, but after I took Lisa's channeling class, it was a 10-month program last year. And after that was done, like I just kind of went into a different mode, I would say. And now I feel like my body is telling me that I somehow feel like having liquid raw diet is what my body is asking for right now. So I still eat cooked meals. I just have one cooked meal at lunch, and breakfast and dinner is a liquefied raw diet.
Mm.
And so I do feel lighter, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It
Yeah.
definitely increases your vibration by doing that.
Yeah, and nutrients too. If it's raw, I think you're getting a lot more nutrients versus cooked food.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I never thought I'd be eating liquefied raw diet, but
I'm
man,
not quite
whatever.
there. I'm not there, but I eat a very clean diet, and I've noticed like recently, like I'm starting to not want to have even. I haven't eaten meat like red meat in decades, but I eat still fish and chicken, and recently I'm like I don't even have a desire for it. So I can see
Right.
on my spiritual journey, I definitely things are starting to drop off that I used to eat on a regular basis or drink, and now I'm like, man, I don't want that. It's like your body is changing and shifting.
Yep. Your vibration is rising, and so
Yeah,
you don't want the dense food anymore.
yeah, exactly.
I
And I don't
still
eat a lot. I really don't, and I do drink a lot. I drink a lot of protein shakes just to give myself the protein I need.
Yeah, I do plant protein. Obviously, I don't do animal protein. So yeah, when I have my shakes, is I put like fruits and spinach and the protein powder, and I'm good. Like
Yeah,
I feel like I am nourishing myself much better now.
that's awesome.
And so yeah,
So yeah, I
we
do
are
believe
we
that's
are what we
allowing.
eat.
Oh, we absolutely are, and I do believe that's allowing you to have more vivid experiences in the astral plane.
I think so. I think it's connected to that.
Hmm.
Because I want to say I took that 10-month channeling program. I used to drink coffee every morning. I
Uh-huh.
needed to have my coffee. But during the program, one day I woke up and I made my coffee and I put it in my mouth and I had to spit it out because my higher self was saying, no, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no
it
more
blocked you.
coffee.
It blocked you. God,
Yeah.
it's
And so
amazing.
now I quit coffee too. So
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm kind of like on a very streamlined diet. Let's just say that.
That's good. That's good. If it works for you, I think that's wonderful. And I know for me, I feel so much better eating very clean and just
Mm-hmm.
nothing processed. Um, well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to see, do you have any like words of wisdom or advice for my followers here or anyone listening to this YouTube recording?
I just want to leave your audience with this, try to find coherence within yourself, right? When you are in coherence and you emit that frequency out, you are helping humanity and helping Mother Earth because it all starts with us. So, I mean, we all go through difficulties in life, and that's okay because we chose to incarnate in this dense dimension. But try to find, like I said, try to find the peace, try to find the light, try to find coherence, whatever it takes. Maybe it's just walking in nature, enjoying the sunshine, 5 minutes of meditation, whatever it takes. Just try to get yourself to peace, because then, you know, humanity and Mother Earth will appreciate it and will be grateful for it, because we are helping the the bigger picture.
Yes, the ripple effect, it does have an impact. Thank you.
Right.
It is really an important message. So, thank you so much, Priscilla, for joining me today. I really enjoyed having you, and always fun having a conversation with you and the twists and turns we take.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here, and I hope my message is helpful to your audience. And, thank you again for having me. I'm so grateful.
You are very welcome. And thank you for listening to Priscilla and I today. We appreciate you and your willingness to awaken your own spiritual journey. So continue to shine bright. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Spiritual Sensitivity Unleashed podcast. We hope our conversation today has inspired you to embrace your true self and connect with your inner strength. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review my podcast. Your support helps me reach more empaths and sensitive souls like you, empowering them to reclaim their inner peace and transform their sensitivity into their strength. Stay connected with me on social media and visit my website at EmilyKady, that's EmilyKady.com, for more resources, upcoming episodes, and to book your own intuitive channeling session with me. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Together, we can navigate the path of authentic living and spiritual awakening. Until next time, stay empowered, stay connected, and keep shining your light.